our children's garden today, and we thought we'd add a little bit of whimsy. So we're digging out what look like pterodactyl tracks from the dinosaur era, and we thought children who visit the garden might just wonder where those tracks came from. And we plan to fill them with concrete mix, Quikrete concrete mix, and then we're going to add even more of a prehistoric air to them and put in an impression of leaves that are indeed from the prehistoric age. These are ginkgo leaves. We'll also be adding leaves from the bald cypress, and those will be pressed into the concrete, and once it dries we'll pull the leaves away and it will look like a fossil. We think that'll be a lot of fun. Well, if you want to do concrete stepping stones in your garden and add leaf impressions and use other natural materials as well to have your own natural looking stepping stones, we're going to take you through that process. And you don't necessarily have to do a free-form design in the soil such as these. You can recycle materials from around your own home. Just think about those Friday and Saturday nights. If you order up a pizza, you don't necessarily want to throw the box away. This will make a great concrete form. All you need to do is cut the top box away and then tape the sides together. And we've already done that on a couple of pizza boxes back here. This is one that we've taped together, and it will make a freestanding form, and we have rubbed petroleum jelly real thoroughly around the insides first before we fill that with concrete mix, and when it's done we'll be able to turn it over and have a complete stepping stone that we can move wherever we want in the garden. You can also do that in place if you make the surface fairly smooth and level and just lay this down cookie cutter fashion and fill that up with the concrete mix and then put your impressions on. Well, we need to get started with this, and the first step of course is to have your materials all together. We have a wheelbarrow for mixing the concrete. We have our water already measured out in a clean container. We have safety equipment, and we also have some cement colorant. This is a charcoal color because we want these to look like dark slate, to truly look like they might have come from prehistoric times. And so we're going to mix that up in here, and on the instructions they already give you the amount of water to have measured out. And the key when adding colorant is to make absolutely sure that you mix it with the water before you try to put it in to the concrete. The reason for that is if you added water to your concrete and then tried to pour the colorant in, it might be very difficult to get that mixed in. These come in different shades as well, but we chose charcoal color, and we're just blending that around, getting it mixed up ahead of time. It's kind of inky looking, isn't it? Once we get that all blended, the next step before you pour the concrete mix into the wheelbarrows, make sure that you have yourself protected. I have on rubber boots, long pants, long sleeves, going to wear rubber gloves, eye protection, and a throwaway dust mask to make sure I don't get any dust up my nose. And make sure you have those lined up ahead of time before you get started. So let's get ready. I'm going to add some concrete mix to our wheelbarrow, then we'll add the water and get ready to make these neat little pavers. Now comes the really fun part. Once you've mixed up your mortar mix, and ours was a mortar mix, and so we added gravel to it to help the mortar mix adhere. If you buy concrete mix, that will already have it in. And then just go out and collect some plants. We've kept these in our refrigerator to keep them fresh. We collected them ahead of time. Then you just press them into the mix, and you can leave them in place. In fact, that's advisable to leave them in place until the mix dries, and then they'll just weather on out of there. But that will leave a really neat impression. We have some plantain flowers here and some leaves to do just a little design. You just press that into the concrete. Then we have some oak leaves, and you want to make it look like they just fell down upon the surface, as though it were a fall day and they just fell into the surface and were locked in time. Then we have some kind of a mix of oak leaves here. Then another thing that's very interesting is to take a leaf from an unusual tree. For instance, we have a Buckeye leaf here, and this will lay nice and flat, and the nice thing about it is the back of it has fairly prominent veins, and so that's going to leave a nice impression. So we're going to lay that right across here, and again just press it into the surface. And when you're mixing your mix, you want to make sure that it comes out the consistency of, say, cookie dough. You want it to be firm enough to hold these designs in place. And just press those in place. And while that's setting, let me step on over here and show you some other designs that we've done, and I'll just gently lift this up. These are 2 grape leaves with 2 Buckeye leaves. I think you can see that right there. And then over here on our dinosaur feet, now this takes a little bit of time to get these in place. You take a trowel and a knife and just carefully tease the concrete into place, and then we just used our leaves from the bald cypress and the ginkgo, and again those will just be pressed in place, and we'll leave those in place for a while. And if you have children helping you with this, just again make sure that you use safety precautions. When you're mixing the mix itself, you might not want to have them around, but once the fun starts and you start troweling in place, it would be okay to have them present. You might want them to wear some gloves. Make sure you clean up ahead of everything pretty quickly when you're done. And the last thing to keep in mind is that you don't have to use just botanical materials. You could mix in some rocks or some seashells. The one caution though is that you don't want to make too deep an impression in these, and the reason for that is that you can get water in there, and then if it freezes in the winter it can pop out or cause that to crack. Again, these are about 1.5 inches to 2 inches deep, so that they can withstand some foot traffic and not crack apart, and do make sure that you get the right concrete mix so that it will hold together real well. It's really a pretty simple project. We hope it's one that you'll try in your own garden, and again experiment with different concrete colors. As I mentioned earlier, we used charcoal. You could go with a terracotta or anything like that you might wish. Just let your imagination run wild. Have some fun with these free-form designs like we did with the dinosaur prints, and just enjoy.